This video is going to show you Solar Master Nightfall getting Platinum rank on the Corrupted this week on a Titan. On a Solar Titan with the exotic trace rifle Coldheart. This run's going to explain the champion spawn, stuff like that, because a couple of things have changed. But overall, this run's obviously going to be Platinum. There's going to be a couple of skips, but it's still classed as Platinum. So there's two overloads at the start of the encounter. There's one here, and then there's one at the very spawn point. Now, you shouldn't have much problem with this overload here. I just did because he teleported on me, so one thing led to another, right? But that's fine. Classy Restoration helps survive that, which if you're going to run a Solar Titan, there's really no reason not to use this mod. I know how powerful it is, etc. But just use it while it's here, because it is a seasonal mod. It's going to go away, right? So you may as well use it while it's here. If you're using Solar Titan, that is. The burn on this is an acute arc burn. So take advantage of that. If you want to use Storm Chaser, which is probably the best weapon for this, then go ahead and do that. Obviously, I was, using something different though. I was using Coldheart, showing you that, because I used Prometheus Lens last week because it was Solar Burn, and this week it's Arc Burn. So I've cleared the two overloads. Now, if you clear any of the Void Shielded Acolytes that you just saw on that bridge, you will spawn in another champ. Don't do that. Do not spawn in the extra champ. If you clear the Void Acolytes, you get an extra champ. Don't do it, because if you spawn in that overload, you have to kill him. So if he doesn't spawn, he doesn't count for Platinum ratings. That is the point. So save yourself some time. So obviously there's no ads on that cliff area like they used to be now. It's changed. They changed it a while ago. It makes Corrupted itself a lot more fluid. There's a lot of things they've done to try and make it less aggravating, I guess, because a lot of people aren't a huge fan on a Corrupted in general. So with the elevator section, you're going to get the first spawn of Scions. I don't recommend you use your super. Try and use some sunspots. Stand in your sunspots as much as possible. Spam abilities. I'm using the exotic chestplate Heart of Inmost Light. Now you can use the Splendor exotic helm that everyone's using. You want to use that, you can use that. I prefer this one because I have more control of when I get my health regen. Right, because with Splendor, when you are critically wounded, you will get that sunspot, yeah, sure, but your barricade will be consumed. Yeah, it is very good, but I'm a slight preference towards Heart of Inmost Light, which you can see you can get plenty of barricades. It's basically a 1-to-1. If you have a tier 10 resilience stat with Heart of Inmost Light, as long as you cycle in your abilities properly, it's basically 1-to-1. So you're going to have unlimited uptime really on Classy Restoration. So we can run around and do things that we generally wouldn't. You'll often see me do a shield break as a Phalanx will try and shield bash me, because the tower and barricade will negate that. Generally it will, not always, but generally it does. I'm having a little bit issue with Scions. They're replicating more than usual. So I guess I'll take those. You should really deal with those straight away, but I don't recommend you use a super, which a super would clear out those Scions really quick. I would recommend you do that on phase 2, because there's obviously a second phase. I've also got a Transcendent Blessing on, right, which gives it a little bit of extra damage, but it's not the end of the world type thing where you need to run that. I'd done a run without it, and then I'd done a run with it just to see if I was noticing any difference. And you do a little bit, I guess. So we'll take down the Phalanx. So make sure you take down the mini Phalanxes first, then the Ultra, because if you take down the Ultra first, the next phase initiates, or you used to. So just do it in that order, so that way nothing like that happens. You don't want the next spawn happening as you've got an Ultra on you. This is where you pop your super, clear out all the Scions. That is the goal there, to clear them all out, which is pretty easy to do. I'm using the top tree, bottom tree hammers, whatever that's referred to as. I'm not running the Burn and Maul one. You can run Burn and Maul either or, it's up to you. The Burn and Maul is actually slightly better anyway, so you want to run that. Just the thing with the this super is you can deal with range targets, I guess, a little better. But overall, they're very similar anyways. Once you've got Roar and Flames, which that's what we've got on, Roar and Flames and Soul Invictus as our aspects. The fragments I showed at the start of the video, right? So I don't really need to cover it too much, because I don't really want to, as I say, go too in depth with this video, because it's only master. and there's not that much interest in masters, so I'm not going to give you the full commentary on the start, on the loadout in depth. I'll save all that for when GMs come out, because that's what a lot of PvE players are just waiting on that. If anything, you're playing corrupted because you want the horror's least pulse, or you want some ascendant shards, endgame mats. That's literally all you're doing it for. This knight here can do solar and stasis. He's not that threatening. It's arc burn, so the knights aren't that threatening, right? So it's not too bad. Once that's the elevator part covered, right? Just make sure that you prioritize and getting those orbs, map rotation, cycle around the map, and that's all you really need to do with that. Just keep popping your barricades and using your nades, and it's pretty easy. We're using revitalize and blast as well, as you can see. So when we stun a champ, we get an explosion. Right, so it's very good. It's good because it's a 4 energy mod and classy restoration is 6, so you put those two together, that's 10. That covers your class item. Wither and Heat's up this season, which would be good, but classy restoration's up, which is 6. Wither and Heat is 6, so you've got to pick, and classy restoration is better than Wither and Heat. So you're not going to see many people using Wither and Heat, or if you're in a fire team, you can have somebody with it on. Right, but just know that they're not going to have classy restoration. So you're not going to. It's a shame because you're not going to see many people use it. It should be just 4 energy. I don't know why it's 6. You know, if you could use Wither and Heat plus classy, or even both, maybe Wither and Heat plus revitalize and blast. You know, that'd be actually interesting. But you can't. But you can use revitalize and blast with Wither and Heat, I guess, actually, because that's 6 and a 4. But you can't with the classy. So we're going to use Coldheart here to take down the arc shields. Use our abilities. We're not going to spam too much ammo. See, here's the thing with these trace rifles. They're really efficient on ammo. Very good to use, I think. I've used a couple of exotic traces and so far that they're reacting really well for Overload. Obviously they're consistent because they're very similar to now Divinity, apart from you're not getting the crit bonus. But they're consistent on Overloads. They're good. I can see people using these on GM. I'm going to be using it on GM. Especially with 3 people. If 3 people are using the trace, then it'll melt Overloads. Especially with the revitalize and blast, it'll be literally the setup to use. Unless you use an Osteo, the SMG or something like that. But that'll be like the setup. There's an unstoppable here, which will take him from distance. We'll start to ease up. I'm not going to use all my ammo. I guess I'm good on ammo, to be honest. I could have used way more than what I did on this particular run. This particular run wasn't the best, actually. It was okay. It was alright. But as I said, I'm not looking to sort of farm up a perfect run on it because there's no point. The video is only relevant for this week. Yeah, and then after this week, it's not relevant because once the cycle of Nightfalls, the 6 weeks, whatever, happen, then it goes to GMs. So this video is kind of redundant in a way because all the strats that I'm saying is sort of nonsense for when we get to GMs. You know, you might be able to copy some of the aspects of the loadout, which hardly most likely is viable 100%, you know, but it's just, that's why I say I'm not going to put too much time into these masters because there's not a lot of point to it because they're only relevant for 1 week of the season to me and players, I guess, once they're leveled up. So it's a shame. It's kind of a shame because masters are in a weird spot, right? They were the end game. They obviously still are, but the GMs are what everyone plays, really. So it's kind of a weird spot because no one's playing Masters, but they are playing Legend and Hero because Hero's match made. And people are playing Legends for the quick 100k Pinnacle because I do knock around LFG at times and see that's what people are mainly playing. People aren't playing the Masters, so you either playing Legend or GM. It's like they're in a weird place. What's the point in this difficulty? You may as well just remove them, just do Legends. Because I don't see much point. You know, GM is the actual difficulty that people are playing. So, there's 2 realms here. When you get to the double Ogre phase, there's 2 realms. There's the Hive realm and the Taken realm. The Hive realm has 1 unstoppable champion maximum. This is where it's a grey area for people. People really don't understand where all the champions spawn. So the champion will spawn in the Hive realm, either middle, left or right, in front of the main boss. It's RNG, and I'm on right side, so if the champion spawns on another side, it makes it difficult. try and get that unstoppable down in one cycle. If you don't, you can get him on the next phase. I'm going to use my super here now. This is what you want to use your super on, the Hive boss, because you want to deal with the Hive realm first, because you keep getting the castaway mechanic where you go between two realms. Once you deal with one realm, and that means by taking down the boss, that realm's done. I recommend you do the Hive realm first, then the Taken realm. This is a better way of doing it, because the Hive realm, if you deal with the Taken realm first, you'll end up in the Hive realm, and there's so many knights that chase you. So this is a top tip: do the Hive realm first, because there's too many Arc Knights, too many ads. On the Taken realm, the ads will despawn. Right, you can just run past Shriekers. So easy. So that's my top tip for that. So we dealt with the Hive realm, I believe. So champion was killed. Now I'm going to go over to this side. This is a good place to stand. This draws in the champions, the Taken champs. There's 2 of them in the Taken realm. It draws them to you so that you can do damage with them without having to deal with all the acolytes, the Solar Knights, the Shriekers. There's so much stuff in this room where you don't really want to deal with it all. So I'm just going to do a bit of damage from here, you can see. I'll only peek out though when I've got the classy, the restoration. And I'll just sort of go back and forth like that. Like, look, this champion's pushed, it's perfect. The boss can knock you and boop you a little bit, so you've got to keep an eye on him a little bit. But it's not too threatening, you know. Especially with double arc resist, make sure you put that on your chest plate. So this second unstoppable isn't pushing. The reason being is because he can't see where I am. He's just over that wall there. So I'm just sort of trying to bait him, right? Because it's a danger. I think if you clear the boss, yeah, actually the champs will definitely despawn. If you clear that boss, the champions and the ads will despawn and you won't get plat. So don't clear that boss until you're done. I'm going to try something, and this worked out. So if I come back to the stairs, this champ has seen us. So that's perfect. There's some good damage here. That's good. He's finishable. And that's our champs. Now we can melt. You can do all your damage from back here as well. You can just use your scout. I've actually got Osmosis on this scout, and I actually didn't really need it. It'll become more important on GMs to maybe have... Like, this is actually a good setup because there's Arc Shields, there's Void, there's a ton of Void. Right? So and then my primary, or my Osmosis primary, will deal with Knights if, you know, I lose a nade or whatever it might be. So it's actually a good loadout for dealing with multiple burns, but it's not really needed. Any scout will do you, because your abilities are going to deal with the knights anyways, your sunspot setup. So I picked up some ammo there. To go out in the open though, I had to pop a rift to tank, not a rift, sorry, a barricade to tank all that damage to get the ammo, because once you leave the Taken realm, that ammo's left there. So you may as well go and optimize it. And as you saw, I can just run past the Shriekers with my barricade. Right, pop a barricade, run past them, and I don't have to deal with them. This is where the unstoppables are. I like to come back here and deal with them first. Now this is where the changes start to happen. Right, there's been some AI changes on these overlords in this room. One of them pushes you, never used to. They used to hang around on the cliffs, left and right, like at the very back of the map. You'd have one left, one right. One would hug the mini boss, because there's a ultra mini boss. That isn't the case now. One of them actually pushes up these stairs, and it's actually caught me off guard a couple of times, and they freeze. And what can happen is if the unstoppables see you, they might come up with the champ. But it was just the overload push, so you can see here. I'm actually caught off guard here. Then he teleports. So we've still got issues with corrupted, man. There's still points. These champs can fall off map as well, and if they do, you lose platinum. Now they've tried to change that from a champ to stop falling off, especially in the next zone, but they're still falling off map. As soon as you see them, you've really got to push them. It's like that, because if you sort of fight them from a distance, they just seem to walk off map. Not so much here, but in the next zone it does. I'll get these unstoppables from here, just showing off Revitalize and Blast. Revitalize and Blast, a fun fact about it is, it's classed as solar damage. So if you stun a champ and there's a knight next to that champ, it breaks their shield. It's actually classed as solar. And another thing about it is that it has a cooldown. It doesn't, like, it won't stun back to back, but it'll stun every other time. Just depends. It's on sort of like a timer. It's weird. So I don't really want to talk about this. This was actually, I uploaded it anyways. I wasn't too fussed, but I actually totally missed my jump, so I really can't. And then not only that, I used my super. So that's actually kind of very bad. So what I was trying to do was get on that cliff area and kill the champ on the left, because I know he's on left. So I've done that. You can see there's no checkpoint. I was actually going to reset the run, but I thought, I'll just screw it. I'll just go on with it. It's fine. I'm not too fussed. So obviously on GM, if that happened, you go on orbit. So don't try and make that jump on a Titan, what I've just done. It's kind of a waste of time. What I'm trying to do is spawn kill the Overlord there on the left hand side without aggroing the Ultra, but now I'm going to aggro him. That's fine though, because I can barricade him off and close him off and then isolate the champ. I don't even know why there's an Ultra there. Like, it makes no sense. Like, if he was there and you cleared him and then that opened the door, that's fine. That's a trigger. That makes sense. But he's not even a trigger. He's just there. So it's a case of just skip the Ultra. You really don't need to bother with him. So that's the Overload dealt with. That's all champs dealt with. So the drop. This is something that you need to know and learn for GM, because you don't want to be dying and upsetting your teams. You need to know how to do this safely, this drop, because it's so easy just to die. Right? So this is the route that you take to get through every time. You don't do the long jump. You actually look here for this rock here. Rock right there, because there's none of those taken balls, right, swelling around. Then you jump off and do your long jump. Right? And then that's how you do it. Every time, and you won't die. If you try and make the long jump, you might get through, you might not. The taken ball might hit you and you get physicsed, and then you just die. So that's what you need to do. So this is the Overload that, in my experience, you need to push him, because he will fall off map. So I'm going to quickly use a bit of Fred Neal, because they're void shields, right, and then push this Overload as quickly as possible. Of course, there was one Acolyte left that sort of disrupted my rhythm. This Overload is still disrupted though. He's sort of enraged, so that they seem to have changed the way they enrage as well. They seem to enrage anyways when you stun them properly. Like, they're not meant to do that. I'm almost certain they just used to. They would do the enrage if you messed up, but if you'd done a proper stun, like with a bow or whatever it was that season, the previous season, they would just stun, they wouldn't enrage. But now they're still enraging, even if you get a proper stun on them. My guess is because maybe I'm using the trace and it takes like a second or two for that to kick in. So some of the damage is considered as non-overload, then it's overload. I don't know. Because that's actually key to know, that they're going to be enraging when we're doing the solo GMs, because that will kill you. So it's something I'm going to monitor, see how we go. Maybe have a look at what Osteo does. Is that enraging them even when it's overloading them? Because, you know, like right now, look, he's overloading. He shouldn't be enraging like that. That would be a death. What would just all that damage I just tanked? That would be a death on GM probably. So I don't know. We'll just see how we go with that. So I skipped all the ads you noticed up above the plate. You don't need to deal with all that. All the overloads are here. There's 3 overloads in this section. 1 on that first cliff area that I said to push, and then there's 2 here. Right. We'll save on heavy. Don't spam your heavy too much. You need, I would say, 3 mags worth. Right, 3 mags worth's good enough for the entire fight, and you're gonna get ammo because there's so many ads to clear on this. We have got ING Firearm, which gives us a 20% weapon damage bonus when we pick up an elemental well, which we do that via our grenades with elemental ordnance, which we're going to be doing that a lot. We're going to utilize Sunspot here to its maximum potential. So you're going to see how much. It's kind of crazy what I can tank. It does look more dangerous than what it is, but it was a little dicey at times, but it wasn't too bad. So this first phase of ads you need to clear off, obviously. Try and get a nade where they jump. See where they're all jumping? Try and get a nade and a Sunspot right on there. Right, then you want to get another Sunspot with your hammer or whatever, and then just keep cycling those abilities, popping your barricade every time you get it, just to tank all this damage. Use your hammer, don't be frightened to use that, use your nade, and then look, that's all the ads clear because of the Sunspot. When you go for damage, It takes 3 orbs, even without Transcendent Blessings. I've tested it without. It takes 3 orbs to take down this boss's shield. What? I don't know what that was. If you notice that, I actually nearly killed myself by jumping on that platform. That's kind of silly. I don't know why that was. That wasn't even the boss. That was actually physics. So you can see 3 orbs. On your final orb, though, take it to middle platform. This is where you're going to do your DPS from. Now, my DPS was screwed because I missed crits. So try not to do that. But if you execute it properly, you'll get the boss to be shielded. And then you'll have the next phase. If you do enough damage, though, you'll actually get him to spawn in his teleporter. Well, the boss's teleporter, whatever. To go to the next phase. Once the boss starts moving like that, you got no chance. He's shielded anyways. So that's okay. It's not too bad. We've got to the next phase. This is when you want to pop your super, by the way. I've actually popped it prematurely, but I was out of position, so I popped it. This is where you want to fight from right here, because you need to get as many sunspots going as possible right here. Right, so the more sunspots you get going, the better this location is for damage. Also, the GM strat is actually not to do this, it's actually to go way back ways. There's the floating island behind me. You can stand on there. You don't get joint allies on that island, but you do on the others. That's where you stand to do this. Right, just letting people know about that. But you can see, look, I'm wanting to really show off how good this Titan is right now. So yeah, the Splendor Helmet's amazing, but so is Heart of Inmost Light. I would argue it's better. It fits my playstyle. I can control when I'm getting my regen, when I'm doing my barricades. Because like I said, with the Splendor, yes, it will proc auto, but you won't have a barricade. Right? I feel as though that's a big thing that people are missing with the Splendor Helm. You don't get your barricade, it consumes it. This build is best of both worlds, because I still get my classy restoration, and I can just pop my barricade when I want. And barricades are very useful in this, in endgame stuff. Right? So I just feel as though this is a little bit better. And having most like enhances my ability damage with Roaring Flames. Now I didn't rock like a hammer build in terms of like me hammering everything and doing all that, obviously, but I could have done. Right? I could have went that route with it. I don't spam my hammer that much because with me being on controller, I haven't set any bindings to set up the Titan build. Right? You need to set up a good binding, because if you use your, it's the same button as your melee. So if you're close to the ad, if you've got auto melee turned on, if you're close to the ad, you won't throw your hammer, you'll just standard melee them, which isn't a bad thing because you add scorched targets. You add scorched targets now with uncharged melee. They buffed it last week. Not a bad thing, but when you want to like one phase a boss with a hammer, it's not good. You need to actually set bindings up, which is a pain to me because I hate changing bindings and all that stuff. But if you really want to be like efficient with the mini hammer, that's what you've got to do. This run isn't meant to be like that. It's just meant to be, here's how you're doing it. Here's how you get platinum. Here's where the champions are. That's all it's meant to be, really. We'll take advantage of Osmosis here, which will become more relevant on the higher difficulties, because you can just keep breaking the shield on the knights, because you can't proceed to the next island until that knight and all adds are taken down, for the boss to then proceed to the next island. It will despawn the boss, so you'll see in a minute. Knights took down, then you can move across, but that helped out because I had Osmosis on my scout. Obviously I could have just spammed a couple more nades, it wouldn't be a big deal, but I'm just showing you how good this is, having a trifecta burn of Solar Arc and Void in your loadout. And there's a lot of burns, there's a lot of shields in this as well, so it's not bad. Now I'm going to focus the Unstartable. I'm going to do a bit of damage while he's there. Obviously you're going to have these floating rocks, right? So it's just a case of, when you're jumping across, you don't just auto assume, okay, I'm not looking, I'll be fine. You'll get walloped by a rock. So make sure that, I know it's common sense, but you see so many people die in this strike with these floating rocks. It's obviously on a pattern, so just, you know, let the cycle go, let the rocks go past, then jump across. I want to pop some a barricade here just because I get melted a bit by that knight. The Unstoppable's still alive, but he's finishable. Well, just kill him anyways. This scout's actually really good. I actually quite like it. So now on to the final phase of the fight. So I'll do my best to explain briefly things you can and can't do. This location where I'm standing right now, you can come back here and fight the Scions from. However, I believe after the Scions are killed and you initiate like a phase, especially when there's captains, you get no turn back. So you can use it for the very first phase, that island right at the back, but after that you really can't. We're going to take advantage of the sunspots here, and we're going to get charged with light, right, so that I can finish off the boss here and now, because that's going to give us increased damage against the boss. I could have used Radiant as well. There just isn't enough time really to do Radiant and then your shots to get this done, like the cycle on here. So there is actual extra phase after this, but I don't do it because I put out so much damage. If you go on to the next phase though, just use your super for the captains. You'll get 2 solo captains. But if you do end up doing it like this, then this is how you would do it. Wait for the boss to boop. He boops every now and then. He or she, I know I'm calling the wrong gender, but whatever. When the boss does that, said here, you then can throw the ball. Don't do it until, right? So I've licensed now to throw, so I will. And that way you won't get booped during damage, which means you won't miss your critical hit damage. So as long as you get all your crits, or most of them, you will then one cycle at the very end, if you know what I'm saying. And as I said, if you don't do that and she's shielded, then just use the super, take out the captains, rinse and repeat, and that's the fight done. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.